The room was silent except for the rhythmic beeping of machines and the whispers of disbelief. 22 of the nation's top doctors stood around the bed of General Amanda Rhodes, the youngest four-star general in U.S. history. Her pulse was weak, her breathing shallow. No diagnosis fit. Every test came back clean. Every treatment failed. But just when everyone began preparing for the worst, a quiet janitor mopping the corner stopped, tilted his head, and said softly, "Ma'am, you might be looking in the wrong place." Every eye turned to him. And in that moment, the fate of a woman who led armies rested in the hands of a man no one even noticed. The hospital was supposed to be the safest place for heroes. Yet inside room 407, the strongest woman in the military lay helpless, her uniform folded neatly on a chair beside her, medals gleaming in the cold fluorescent light. General Amanda Rhodes had commanded thousands in battle, faced bombs, insurgents, and the horrors of war. But nothing frightened her more than the feeling of her body failing her without reason. For weeks, she'd been suffering from fainting spells, severe fatigue, and chest pains. 22 specialists had flown in from across the country. Cardiologists, neurologists, even NASA's medical experts. They poked, prodded, tested, and argued. Nothing. Her vitals said she was healthy, but she wasn't. Outside her room, whispers grew, maybe it's stress. Maybe it's psychological. Maybe she's just giving up. But there was one person who didn't believe that. Down the hall, a single-dad janitor named Ethan Cole moved silently, pushing his cleaning cart. His hands were rough, his uniform faded. No one knew that once, before tragedy struck, he'd trained as a combat medic before his wife's death forced him to give up his career to raise their daughter alone. Ethan had seen too many hospitals. Too many people lost because of arrogance, because someone didn't listen. Every night, he'd clean the same rooms, and every night he'd see the same doctors shaking their heads at the same screens. Until one night, something caught his eye. He noticed the faintest tremor in General Rhodes's fingertips. Her oxygen level fluctuated only when she turned her head to the left. It was so subtle, so human, that no machine could catch it. He froze. That wasn't stress. That was circulatory blockage. He glanced at the chart left on the counter. The doctors had scanned her heart and brain, but not her neck. Ethan hesitated. Who was he to question them? He was just a janitor. But then he thought of his little girl, Lily, her favorite bedtime line. Dad says heroes aren't born in uniform. They're made when you care enough to act. So, he acted. He knocked on the chief doctor's office door. "Excuse me, sir," he said quietly. "I clean room 407. I noticed something, maybe her carotid artery?" The doctor frowned, half amused, half annoyed. "Son, we have 22 of the best minds working on this. Go mop the floors." Ethan nodded politely, but his eyes stayed firm. "Yes, sir. But I've seen that tremor before. In the field. If you scan her neck, just once, you might save her life." Something in his voice made the doctor pause. Reluctantly, he agreed. Minutes later, they ran the scan. And there it was, clear as day. A microscopic blood clot pressing against the artery near her jawline. Invisible to regular scans. Deadly if untreated. The room went dead silent. The chief doctor turned toward Ethan. How did you know?" Ethan just shrugged. "I didn't. I just looked." Within hours, surgery was performed. The clot was removed. And for the first time in weeks, General Amanda Rhodes opened her eyes and whispered, "Thank you." 2 days later, the hospital's main hall was packed. Reporters, soldiers, and doctors filled every corner. Cameras flashed as General Rhodes, now recovering, stepped forward in her wheelchair, a small box in her hands. She cleared her throat. "For the first time in my career," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "I owe my life not to a general, not to a doctor, but to a man most of us never even saw." Ethan stood awkwardly at the back, still in his janitor's uniform, eyes lowered. She continued, 22 doctors saved thousands of lives before me, but it took one man's humility, compassion, and courage to save mine. Then she rolled forward and held up the box. Inside was a Medal of Honor. She pressed it into his hand. I looked at Data, she said softly. He looked at me. The hall erupted in applause. Tears streamed down faces, soldiers, nurses, even the same doctors who had dismissed him. Ethan tried to speak, but words failed. All he could manage was a quiet, "I was just doing my job." General Rhodes smiled. Then maybe the rest of us need to redefine what a hero's job really is. Later that night, Ethan sat on a park bench with his daughter Lily, watching the city lights flicker. She climbed onto his lap and whispered, "Dad, does that mean you're a hero now?" He smiled, wrapping his arm around her. "No, sweetie. It means heroes can be anyone who pays attention." She nodded sleepily, resting her head on his chest. "Just like you always do." As he watched the stars, the same thought repeated in his mind. Sometimes, it's not the rank that saves a life. It's the heart behind the uniform. And somewhere inside the hospital, a plaque was hung quietly above room 407. It read, "In honor of those who see what others overlook."